George in Connecticut, you're on the air. Welcome.
Good to speak with you, Alex. Julio stole a little of my thunder. I was going to ask about the chemtrails, but what I'm really trying to ask is, how do you find out where they're flying out of? I'm on the New York-Connecticut border, and I see these clowns constantly crisscrossing the skies, and it's got to be out of one of the things here. And there's a type of information if we could find out for all the regions so that we can call these people up and put them on notice that we're aware of what's going on.
Okay, well, let's explain what's happening. Anything a government does, they compartmentalize, so most people who are involved in it don't even know. So there's a lot of layers. There are thousands. If you type in geoengineering, weather modification, if you type in, aerosol atmosphere campaign, literally Department of Energy, every other major government, major universities, private corporations. So there's not one program going on. So a lot of it's publicly admitted, but it's all broken up and compartmentalized like a jigsaw puzzle that hadn't been put together yet. Okay. B, because so much of the programs are secret, it's admitted that the programs are going on, but the details are secret. We don't know exactly what they're doing. That's why it shouldn't be secret under U.S. Code Title 50, Chapter 32, subsection 1520A, paragraph B, that the government for research purposes, this is a UN treaty as well, can test chemicals, biologicals, radiologicals, or anything else they want on domestic populations. Governments just aren't allowed to do it to each other. That's U.S. Code Title 50, Chapter 32, subsection 1520A, paragraph B, if you want to pull that up. So it says you're not allowed to do testing unless it's part of research. So that's why Holdren, 2 years ago when he first got in, the science czar, there's so much heat on this, he went ahead and came out and said, yeah, there is weather modification, geoengineering going on. If this was a dead planet, it'd be called terraforming. That's bringing a planet to life, but this is the opposite or something different. It's not really the opposite. It's manipulation of the current climate system on a planetary scale. And so because they're doing research, you know, they can, quote, keep it secret. It shouldn't be secret. There should be congressional hearings. This information should be brought out because we don't know if they're manipulating the weather and causing this currently. We just know they have weather manipulation programs going on. So is it inadvertent or is this just a regular weather cycle? I mean, they've trained the ignorant mass that, oh, my gosh, it wasn't that cold last winter and now it's real cold this winter. It's the end of the world. There's always cycles. And so, George, I don't know because we don't know. We just know that these things are going on, but because they're secret, we don't know exactly what's going on.
What about the UN Nuremberg trials and things like this? I mean, the rules like that, because this chemical is bringing down our immune systems. We know that from various reports and things like that.
Well, there is in fact, guys, I want to make sure my memory's correct. There's a 1977 UN Weather Modification Treaty. Just type in UN Weather Modification Treaty. It's 77 or 78. I'm pretty sure it's 77. You can read it. Legislation's been introduced by Kucinich going back a decade ago or 9 years ago to bar weather modification. So government all knows this is going on. It's just, again, quasi-secret. But great points, George. Look, there are clearly weather modification aircraft out there. That's admitted. But people point at regular aircraft and say, well, it's leaving a condensation trail too low. It's staying there for hours. Clearly, it's not ice crystals. And then they get tested. Groups have gone up, flown up and captured it, and it's barium salts, aluminum dioxide, and other variants of that. And that's exactly what they now admit is being done in these tests. But then we have found so many patents. I've been working for 2 years or more on a chemtrail film. We have found so many patents. It's all there in plain view, where they mix it with the jet fuel, the kerosene, and so the companies, the airlines, don't even know. It's designed to disperse these weather-modifying nuclei that forms clouds through the jet engines. It's a perfect dispersal mechanism. So, yes, there are aircraft with nozzles that are specifically designed with other forms of weather modification, but they're also doing it through the jet fuel, That's why you'll see a commercial jet right by another commercial jet in the same strata of the atmosphere. One isn't leaving a trail, the other is. Or one leaves a trail that dissipates in seconds or minutes that is a condensation ice crystal trail off the wingtips, and another one doesn't. You know, I mean, or one puts one out that stays there for hours. And I heard a talk show on Genesis Sunday driving into work, listening to it on 90.1. And I you know, the hosts are nice guys. I tried to call in, and they gave me about 30 seconds and then went to break. And they were like, oh, Alex, you know, maybe this is going on, maybe not. No, it's all admitted. It's all admitted. And then another caller called in, because, you know, I always talk about spider goats and stole my thunder that I was going to try to get to next. It was almost like a psychic connection or something with that caller, and said, well, people talk about spider goats 10 years ago and get laughed at just because people weren't aware of it, but it's admitted they have, you know, part spider, part goat creatures that create body armor. I talked about that yesterday. So, I mean, it's not my fault that I'm informed, so I'm the weirdo because I do research. And so it's like people think just because they don't know about something that then it doesn't exist. And if you're walking around in a field at night and there's a 100-foot pit in it and you're going to fall in and break your legs bare minimum, just because you don't know the pit, you know, is there, does that mean the pit isn't there? I mean, if a tree falls in the forest, but you didn't see it fall over, does it mean it didn't fall over? You're walking through the forest, you see a tree that fell over. You didn't see it fall over, but you can see where it cracked and broke and fell over. I mean, you can look at it and say the tree fell over. But see, they didn't see the tree fall. They're not going to look at the tree falling. And so they're just going to say, hey, doesn't exist. Nathan in Ohio, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex, I'd just like to start out by thanking you. And it goes back to the chemtrails that everybody's been seeing. I'm in Dayton, Ohio, close to Wright Pat Air Force Base.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Alex?
Yes, I can.
And I'm sorry. And the chemtrails were amazing. There were at least 600 lines up in the sky. But last night when the power went out in Dayton, right before it, I heard thunder, and I was walking out the back door because the lights had flickered but come back on. And then I seen the brightest white flash up in the it lit up everything, almost blinding me for a second. And my neighbors come out. They're like, what was that, Nathan? You know, because I inform them all on what's going on, so they come to me with their questions, and I didn't have an answer. But today they tried telling us in Kettering, Ohio, that a power line had busted over a main, and that's the whole guy. And I thought that was kind of, and I'm 20 miles away from that town.
Well, interesting, Nathan. You know, there are all sorts of different types of lightning. One time when my dad was a kid on the farm, there was a tornado down the road, and ball lightning formed and came into their house. A big, giant blue ball floated around for about 30 seconds, went through the living room, and then up the chimney on the stove, because it likes to follow metal, and went you know, hit the stove, went into the stove, and then went out through the stove chimney. And so, you know, there's a lot of natural, crazy things going on, but I can't really comment on it because I didn't see what you saw, but I appreciate your call. Again, because of all of this being secret, we don't know what's going on. But I know this. 16 years ago, before this weather modification program started, most of the time in Texas, there were beautiful, pristine, deep blue skies, ultra gorgeous. Just not a cloud in the sky for months out of the year, off and on. Totally beautiful. I never, 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 I mean, it is incredible, see a clear sky anymore. And every once in a while, I'll get up at 6 in the morning, go outside drinking coffee, the sun comes up, and it's a sky, and then here come the jets. And within 2 hours, it's just solid trails, and then they form into cloud banks. Now, what does John P. Holdren say? What does the White House say? They say that we have a deteriorating atmosphere. It's not global warming or even climate change now. It's a deteriorating atmosphere. That's one of their talking points. Why would the globalists have a giant, now global, it's going on all over the world now. It's been phased in. They've tested it here and in Europe. Why would they have this huge program that's got to cost hundreds of billions of dollars to work with the mass distributors of jet fuel to have them covertly mix the chemicals in so that then it disperses nuclei that then form haze or clouds? Well, Holdren says that the atmosphere is deteriorating, but it's classified. Well, I've seen the film Trinity, the Trinity Project with William Shatner, and this is all declassified. It was public when they did it. Back in the 50s and 60s, hundreds of times. In fact, there's film footage in it that the Army shot out in New Mexico, and also they shot video in Nevada and other places, where it shows these missiles at night lined up, scores of them, firing them into the upper atmosphere, and you see giant white nuclear explosions up in the upper atmosphere, and they said, we're just seeing what it would do. It's kind of like, oh, let's, on 888, 2.5 years ago, let's attack the Russians and see what they do. And they said on the special that the Pentagon thought that it might have ignited. They thought one of the things that could have happened was that the atmosphere would be ignited. They thought the same thing might happen. In fact, the majority of scientists in the Manhattan Project, when they tested the A-bomb a few months before they dropped it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And by the way, people that say they couldn't carry out 9/11 and keep it secret, they were testing A-bombs out in the desert and keeping it secret from people. What was that big explosion? We don't know. Then they go and drop it on the Japanese, and the world's told about it. Tens of thousands, more than that, they see hundreds of thousands were involved in the Manhattan Project. They kept that secret. But that's not the issue I'm getting at here. But everything's interconnected. Listen to me. The globalists did hundreds and hundreds of high-altitude tests where they would shoot high-powered, high-megaton, high-yield nuclear weapons into different areas of the atmosphere. And during the Manhattan Project, when they were testing them at sea level, dropping them from a tower, the majority of their scientists believed that there was a good chance it was going to ignite the oxygen in the atmosphere and burn the atmosphere of the Earth off. I mean, this is all on mainline record if you want to go look it up. And they still did it. And you get enough of these experiments with the Hadron Collider and the nukes and all of it. Who knows what they did? Who knows if they blew big holes in the atmosphere and our atmosphere is spilling out to space? Mars lost its atmosphere. It's got water all over it in ice caps. Clearly once had water flowing over it, lost its atmosphere because it's smaller, doesn't have as big of a gravitational pull to hold in oxygen and other gases. I mean, who knows? Maybe they are trying to repair the atmosphere. The point is they're not telling us, and they're the ones who in one night, I forget the number, but it's dozens of nukes going off in the atmosphere, seeing if they could cause a magnetic EMP wave, and it did blow out transistors all over the planet. Go to Robert in Oklahoma. Robert, you're on the air.
Hello, Alex.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Good.
First-time caller, long-time listener.
Well, good to have you on board.
Thank you, sir. Good to talk to you. Hey, I'd like to make 2 points about global warming, if I may. Number one, they keep considering about the sun not being a major role. It is. Without that, there is no weather because it heats the surface of the Earth, which causes formations of high and low pressure, all of the fronts that are occurring all over the world, and plus it aids in the movement of the jet stream.
Well, they know that. It's the main driver, and that shows their contempt for the public that they tell you the sun has no effect on climate.
Exactly, but it does. I don't understand why they keep saying that it doesn't.
It's like saying gasoline, 93 octane, has nothing to do with your car running.
Number two is that I keep hearing all these global warmers complaining about carbon dioxide going up into the atmosphere by man when they forget one thing. How many active volcanoes belch out so much tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere?
They know humans don't even lift it by 0.5% on record. They know volcanoes. One big volcano puts out more than all humans have in the last 100 years. They know all that. It's their excuse to seize control of all the infrastructure and to tell you what you can do on your own property. They're making carbon dioxide a toxic waste while telling you fluoride, a toxic waste, is good for you. It's a power grab excuse, and people keep thinking they're environmentalist wackos and that they're ignorant or stupid. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. Great points, Robert.